Welcome back to Outside View Scandals. Today we're diving into one of the most dramatic episodes in English history, the fall of the House of Lancaster during the Wars of the Roses. Political intrigue, betrayal, and family feuds, basically a medieval soap opera, but with more swords and fewer happy endings. The Wars of the Roses were a series of conflicts fought between the houses of Lancaster and the House of York, and let's be honest, it was less about roses and more about crowns. Now, the House of Lancaster, symbolized by the red rose, seemed to have it all. They were the ruling dynasty after all. Henry VI sat on the throne, and he wasn't just a king, he was a symbol of continuity, power, and, well, an extraordinary inability to keep his house in order. Poor Henry VI. He's one of those kings who makes you wonder if maybe royal power should come with a mental health check. By all accounts, Henry was pious, gentle, and utterly unsuited for ruling a kingdom constantly at war with itself. His bouts of mental illness certainly didn't help matters. And imagine trying to lead a nation when half the time you can't even lead yourself out of bed. So what happens when you've got a king who's a little, let's say, detached from reality? The vultures start circling, and by vultures, I mean his own noblemen. The English nobility. If there's one thing they loved more than loyalty, it was switching sides whenever it suited them. At the heart of the scandal was Richard, Duke of York. Now, Richard wasn't just any nobleman. He had a pretty solid claim to the throne himself, and he wasn't about to let a king with the mental capacity of a broken compass stand in his way. Initially, Richard acted like the loyal servant of the crown. He even served as the Lord Protector when Henry had one of his episodes. But let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't out of the goodness of his heart. Richard was biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to make his move. The House of Lancaster, on the other hand, was like a dysfunctional family trying to hold it together at Christmas dinner. There were factions within factions, each with their own agenda. Henry's queen, Margaret of Anjou, was fiercely loyal to her husband, and let's be real, probably did more ruling than he did. But Margaret had enemies at every turn, and she wasn't exactly the forgiving type. And if that wasn't enough drama, there's also the fact that Henry and Margaret's only son, Edward, was widely regarded as a bit of a wild card. Let's just say he wasn't the stabilizing force the Lancastrians desperately needed. While Margaret was trying to hold the Lancastrian ship together, Richard, the Duke of York, was busy amassing support from disgruntled nobles. And you know how it is with disgruntled nobles. One minute they're swearing loyalty to the crown, and the next they're raising an army against it. Classic. By 1455, things had reached a boiling point. The first battle of the Wars of the Roses took place at St. Albans. Spoiler alert, it didn't go well for the Lancastrians. Richard of York won the day, and Henry VI was captured. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of taking the crown for himself, Richard decided to let Henry stay on the throne. I know, weird move, right? But Richard had a plan. A long game, if you will. He was content to weaken the Lancastrians bit by bit, chipping away at their power until the moment was just right. And meanwhile, Margaret of Anjou was doing everything she could to fight back. She wasn't about to let some upstart duke usurp her husband's throne. She raised armies, forged alliances, and even engaged in a bit of propaganda. Because nothing says medieval power struggle like a good smear campaign. But no matter how hard she fought, the cracks within the House of Lancaster, they were too deep. The nobles were divided, Henry was too weak, and Richard of York was playing chess while everyone else was stuck on checkers. By 1460, the situation had spiraled out of control. Richard finally made his move and declared himself the rightful heir to the throne. And cue the dramatic music. But just when it seemed like Richard would seize power, the Lancastrians struck back. At the Battle of Wakefield, Richard was killed. Yeah, didn't see that one coming, did you? But don't start feeling too bad for the Lancastrians. Richard's son, Edward, wasn't exactly going to let his father's death go unavenged. In 1461, Edward marched on London, defeated the Lancastrians at the Battle of Towton, and crowned himself King Edward IV. Talk about a plot twist. And where was Henry VI during all of this? In and out of captivity like a royal yo-yo. By 1471, the Lancastrians were a spent force. Henry VI was captured again, and this time there was no coming back. He was quietly murdered in the Tower of London. Probably for the best. His reign had been one long slow-motion train wreck, so to speak. So there you have it. The House of Lancaster fell not because of one fatal blow, but because of years of political intrigue, betrayal, and weak leadership. In the end, the only thing that could stop the infighting was for the house to collapse entirely. And isn't that just the perfect metaphor for medieval politics? Thanks for watching Outside View Scandals. Until next time, when we dig up more dirty secrets from history. And the next video is right here in the end screen.